Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the zoning docket for Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, for the Baltimore Municipal Zoning Appeals. I'm your host today for this session, James Fields. A few preliminary items. Those of you who've been here before know that. Please turn off all your cell phones, or please tell them to vibrate or silent. If you need to have a conversation, please take it out into the hall. As you know, cell phones and conversations are not only disruptive to the proceedings, but everything's being recorded here. So everything that's spoken and any sound is being picked up. So let's be mindful of that. We do have a couple of postponements today. The following cases have been postponed. Anyone who has signed in on these cases will be notified of a new hearing date. The first postponement we have is case number 2019-61, 1235 Union Avenue. Mr. Prettle, I know you're familiar with that one. And also we have case number 2019-75, 3034 and a half Pinewood Avenue. That matter is also postponed. And again, you'll be notified of a new hearing date for those matters. For this hearing, we'll call the cases generally as they appear on the docket. When you hear your case, the appellant will stand to my left. Any opposition will stand to my right. The appellant will present his or her case. Any opposition will state their opposition to the appeal. And just like in court, the appellant will have the last opportunity to speak, and that will end the hearing. We obviously don't have the time to go back and forth multiple times, so to the extent you have multiple individuals for your opposition, it may be helpful for you to identify early on what the salient portions of your opposition are so that there's not a repetitive statements going and we tax the time. We will vote on the appeals heard today at the end of the docket. Anyone who wishes to stay to hear our decision, you can do that. Otherwise, you can call the office, the zoning appeal office tomorrow. The number is 410-396-4301. Again, that's 410-396-4301. As always, we ask that you do not build in Baltimore City without proper permits. The written decision on the matters that are ruled upon ultimately today here will be available in about 3 weeks, approximately 3 weeks. Cases in which we have some opposition. I frankly don't know which ones they are. We found that when there is opposition, it's often because parties haven't had a sufficient opportunity to talk and discuss to see if they can resolve their differences. So for the matters that have where opposition is signed in, I can defer to Mr. Baumgartner for those, and we give you an opportunity to talk today if you have not done so.
We have case number 2019-61, which is the property that was postponed. The next case is case number 2019-69, 3314 through 3318 Airedale Avenue. All those in opposition, please stand. And can the applicant please stand as well, or identify themselves? And have you folks had the opportunity to talk about this case at all? Would you like that opportunity right now?
We would like for them to come into our neighborhood association meeting and talk.
Okay, so we're just finding out if there's been any conversation in between the parties. You're welcome to take the opportunity right now to go out in the hallway and speak. You do not have to do so, and if you choose not to do so, the board will simply hear your case today. All right, so this looks like some folks are going to speak. You're down the docket, so you got plenty of time. You're welcome to speak outside, and then we'll call your case in turn. Other cases in which opposition is signed in, 2019-65, 2542 Foster Avenue. The applicant's Adam Carballo. Is Mr. Carballo in the room?
I don't see him.
He's in the hallway. He's probably speaking with his opposition right now, which is fine. Case 2018-455, 606 Hyson Street. Applicant is Sean Chenworth. Mr. Chenworth, and then the opposition. Is Mr. Chenworth in the room right now? Sean Chenworth. All right, when we get to that point in the docket, if he's not here, the case will be dismissed.
Did you call Foster? We did.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. Next case is 2019-73, 504 South Madeira Street. Looks like we have one. Great. Okay, if you guys want to talk outside. And that is it for the cases that have opposition signed in, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. Moving on, next we're going to call the cases for which the board has sufficient information in the file to approve your case. I will call each of these cases, and please line up to my left in the order that I called your case, and then we'll hear from you. So we would begin with case number 2019-53, 335 South Conkling Street, Damian DeSantis. We next have case number 2019-59, 2490 through 2492 Giles Road. Applicant is the Baltimore Development Corporation. And we have case number 2019-63, 5504 through 5506 Harford Road, Brett Burnham. We also have case number 2019-68, 2200 Boone Street, 2202 Boone Street, 2204 Boone Street, and 2206 Boone Street, Eric Baumgartner. We next have case number 2019-73, 504 South Madeira Street, Travis Blackstone.
504 South
Oh, I'm
Madeira
sorry.
had opposition, right? Yeah, that's not consent anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry, forget that. 2019-73, we have some opposition signed in, so that will not be on consent. Next case is 2019-78, 2229 Fleet Street, Steve Carroll. And that's it for the consents. We have all these folks sworn in.
Yes, raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, the first case, 2019-53. State your name for the record, sir.
Damian DeSantis.
Mr. DeSantis. And we have this case as request to use premises as an art gallery.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval. Thank you.
Mr. DeSantis, is there anything else you'd like to add? Having reviewed your case, the board having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next case, 2019-59, 2490 through 2492 Giles Road, Baltimore Development Corporation. State your name for the record.
Sure. Hi, my name is Kim Clark. I'm Executive Vice President with Baltimore Development Corporation, acting as developer for the city for this particular facility.
Wonderful. And we have this as the purpose of the appeal to construct a government facility for animal services facility?
Yes, it's a new Baltimore City Animal Services facility to be located at the address listed. It's a conditional use
Excellent.
for approval.
Very good. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has been working with the applicant, is recommending approval of the application, subject to the condition that all improvements, including new structures, parking areas, and landscaping, are completed in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Are these conditions acceptable to the Baltimore Development Corporation?
Absolutely.
Okay, very well. Anything else you'd like to add, ma'am?
That's it. Thanks.
All right. Well, the board having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much.
Great day. Next, we have Case number 2019-63. And 5504 through 5506 Hartford Road, Brett Burnham?
Yes.
Okay, and this is a request to use the first floor, 5504 as a tattoo salon and art gallery. Is that
Correct.
correct? Great. All right. And you are Brett Burnham?
I am.
Okay, and you, sir?
I'm Mike Hilliard with the Harbell Community Organization. I'm their Community Services Director, and I'm here in support.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application and noting community support has no objection to the application's approval. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Burnham, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Sir? And we know you have the support of Harbell. The board having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Case number 2019-68. Addresses are 2200 Boone Street, 2202 Boone Street, 2204 Boone Street, and 2206 Boone Street. Mr. Eric Baumgartner?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this is a request to consolidate 2200 through 2206 Boone Streets and construct a new gymnasium for a private school. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. French, we have any staff reports?
Yes, the Planning Department has been working with this applicant also and recommends approval of the application, subject to the condition that the gymnasium building is completed in accordance with site and development plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
And Mr. Baumgartner, are these conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Very well. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
The board, having heard your appeal, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Case number 2019 through 78. I'm sorry, 2019-78, 2229 Fleet Street. Steve Carroll?
I'm James Heiss, the attorney for the applicant.
Okay.
What was your last name?
Heiss, H-E-I-S-E.
Okay. And your name, sir?
Marty Welch.
All right. And this is a request to use first floor as offices?
That's correct.
All right. Any staff reports?
One moment, please.
Sure.
Okay, Planning Department has reviewed this application, notes that this property is contained in the Canton Waterfront Urban Renewal Plan area, and therefore recommends approval of the application, subject to the condition that all exterior renovations and signage meet the requirements set forth in Appendix B, known as Architectural Guidelines and Property Rehabilitation Standards of the Canton Waterfront Urban Renewal Plan. Thank you.
Are these conditions acceptable to you, sir?
They are.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, thanks to the board.
Great. Now, the board, having reviewed your case, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a nice day.
Take care. All right.
Is that the end of
That's the end of consent. We'll do the hardship cases now. Look at that. All right. Okay, we have a modification to the docket. We have a new consent case. Which number is it? Oh. 2019-73, 504 South Madeira Street. Travis Blackstone. You can come on up. Great. Again, so you're Mr. Blackstone?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you, sir?
Chris Brooks,
All right.
next door neighbor.
Gotcha. And so this is a request to construct a second floor rear addition, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. French, any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to tell us about your project or like to add?
Just removing some shoddy work that was already done, replacing it,
Okay.
trying to do it right.
And you're the neighbor?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, because of the shoddy work, there was a lot of leaking, and I had some concern in what he's doing I just put 8,000 into my house, so.
All right.
I just wanna make sure it's done right.
But we're good.
We're good.
Great. All right. Well, the board, having reviewed your case, you have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to call a class of cases for hardship extension requests. All right? When I call the case, I'd like you to, with the address, just line up to my left, and we'll get you sworn in as a group, and then we'll go through that docket. 1818 East Pratt Street, STT Inc. Anyone present for that? 1818 East Pratt Street. 26 South Catherine Street, Frank Shawless. All right, another no-show. Looks like 745 North Fulton Street. Gebranesi Mengiste. 745 North Fulton Avenue. Gebranesi Mengiste.
Excellent condition of that name.
No show. Next case, 1419 Bank Street, Bernard and Deborah Key. Okay. Next case, 1616 East Oliver Street, Herman Lawrence Jr. And everyone, I would like you to line up to my left.
We can't interrupt the proceedings, like, this is all gonna have to wait.
1642 North Wolf Street, Solomon Asfar. 1642 North Wolf Street. Okay. Finally, 3000 Windsor Avenue, Chang Sun Park.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can briefly read into the record, these types of appeals are authorized under the Baltimore City Zoning Code, Section 18701 for retail goods establishments with alcoholic beverage sales. I'm just going to briefly read into the record how we're going to be proceeding per the code so that both the applicants and the audience have an understanding of that background. So when this code change came into effect in 2017, it provides that retail goods establishments with alcoholic beverage sales in a residential district must be determined as follows. For an establishment with alcoholic beverage sales that existed as a lawful nonconforming use before June 5th, 2017, no later than June 4th, 2019. That date is fastly approaching. Notwithstanding the issuance of any prior use permit as a nonconforming packaged goods liquor store, and for an establishment that becomes nonconforming on or after June 5th, 2017, whether by the enactment of this code, by the enactment of an amendment to this code, or by the reclassification of the property no later than 3 years after the date on which that use became nonconforming. This board has the authority under 18701B, waiver for hardship. The Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals may extend by an additional 2 years the time by which a retail goods establishment with alcoholic beverages must terminate its use. To obtain an extension, the property owner or lessee must apply to the board in writing within 1 year after the effective date of this code, June 5th, 2017. All of these appeals qualify as a timely application. The board may consider and may only consider for nonconforming uses existing before June 5th, 2017, the property owner or lessee seeking an extension must establish the existence of one of the following factors that would render termination within the time required. Either a purchase of the property after January 1st, 2008 and before April 1st, 2012, or investment in capital improvements to the property in excess of $100,000 after June 30th, 2007 and before April 1st, 2012, or a lease that was entered into before April 1st, 2012, has a term remaining in excess of 10 years and is not terminable by the lessee because of zoning changes prohibiting the use. So again, unless the applicant is required to demonstrate under those three parameters why they should be given a hardship extension by this board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And again, just for the record, I will call those cases, and again, if you don't appear before we'll just go forward. Again, 1818 East Pratt Street, STT Inc. For the record, it's no show. 26 South Catherine Street, Frank Shawless. No appearance, no show. 745 North Fulton Avenue, Gebranesi Mengiste. It's also a no-show. We'll continue with 1419 Bank Street, Bernard and Deborah Key. I'm sorry. Do we swear?
Swear by it.
Yeah, let's have you all sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, 1419 Bank Street. State your names, please.
Deborah Key.
My name is Seo Key.
Okay.
Yankee, we're helping gingerbread kids.
So hold on one second here. Jan, how do you spell that?
Y-O-N.
Y-O-N. And what was, what is it?
Icho.
One at a time when you speak. Thank you.
Okay, and of course, you're here to obtain a hardship extension from the mandatory termination of the use in a residential zoning district, your liquor store. What can you tell us about your request?
Honestly, we have a signed some petitions from our neighbors
Yeah,
and
my
some,
neighbors.
and some customers, and no.
Yeah,
Okay,
my neighbors.
If you'd like those entered into the record, we can do this.
Please, thank you.
And the purpose of this petition is to what? To ask you to stay in business?
Well, because of
Yes,
because of this
same
change
business.
in law, we're kind of in a limbo about what, you know.
Well, we do need you to speak one at a time, ma'am, so just, so, having heard Mr. Baumgartner's statements, these requests for extensions are very fact-specific.
Right.
So let me ask you, your property that's at issue here, was it purchased after January 1st, 2008 and before April 1st, 2012?
We don't cover under those three conditions, sir, because,
You don't?
and basically, it's just, because there's the unintended consequences of this rezoning, and I know there's many dozens of liquor stores that's been, caught in this limbo, and it's, basically, our store is located between Spring Street, Bank Street,
Yeah.
Eden Street, and Eastern Avenue. That's the block that we're located in, and it's just basically, there's a Beans and Bread soup kitchen, which is located on Bond Street, which is like about 2 or 3 blocks from on east on Bank Street. So it's just basically, there's a lot of transient people, there's a lot of homeless people, and I know our people that
Perkins,
are against Perkins Homes, which, I guess in the news, there's been housing, federal housing, grant to redevelop that site, so everything's kind of is in flux. So we're just trying to, maybe trying to get a hardship extension to, maybe in a couple years, maybe sell the business or, locate, because we've been in business for about 23 years, close to 23 years, so.
Understood.
So we've had a lot of complaints, basically, from the neighbors and some customers, but, it's just like anything else with city life, there's just a lot of the problems with, doing business in the city and, people living in the city, and we talked to Mr. Akris, which was.
No violation, that time, long time. No violation.
Okay,
Now we don't.
all right,
we
well, I
don't,
appreciate
yeah.
your representations.
Life, yeah.
However, and the purpose of Mr. Baumgartner's preamble was to let you know, and all the applicants know, that these extension request parameters are very narrow.
Right, exactly.
And it's unfortunate, but we have very little discretion, if any,
Exactly, sir.
in the absence of finding any of these conditions. And so you acknowledge that none of these conditions apply to your circumstance, is that correct?
Yes, it's just kind of, because when I talked to Mr. Akers, he's the assistant to Mr. Douglas Page, who was one of the secretaries of the liquor board. When he showed a map, basically that one block in Harbor East is surrounded by commercial. It's basically mixed use, and they're permitted to have commercial in those other blocks.
Yeah,
But our block
I block the commission.
is, they said it's not non-conforming, so that's kind of like, maybe we could get a, leniency from the zoning board, maybe, because, that's, when they,
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what representations Mr. Akris made or or
Because,
whether he suggested that we could, but again, our ability to grant any such leniency is very
right,
restricted.
I know those three conditions are very,
They are what they
they
are.
are hard, yeah, hard to.
Yeah, they're hard and fast, and so, unless there's anything else you can tell me regarding these conditions or how you think you might fit into them.
Yeah, I'm just saying because of the redevelopment of Harbor East and the Perkins Homes development, they're changing too, and I mean, within 5 years, will the zoning map, will that change also? I mean, will there be more?
I can't answer that, unfortunately.
그건 안 되지.
I know it's like, this law started when, I guess, Stephanie Rawlings Blake was
예.
mayor, and when Dr. Barbeau was, the health commissioner, and they're all gone, and it's like, we have to live with the consequences of this law.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's
Yeah, I would grant you
a
that.
catch-22. It's very.
Yeah, that's not something you anticipated. I'm
No,
certain that none
I
of you
mean, it's
anticipated
just
that.
like-
But unfortunately, we're here today with this particular set of facts and this
Right.
particular set of
Unless
conditions.
anybody filed an injunction to this law because it's too
Yeah, I want to stay in the very long run.
haphazard or random, and it seems like it's.
Okay. Well, I would, encourage you to consider what your options might be. But again, our jurisdiction here is
Right.
limited, and our ability to grant any approvals outside of these conditions being found are very limited. So there's nothing else along
그럼
those
우리가
conditions.
고친다 그래.
We'll have a decision in 3 weeks. or-
You'll have a written decision in 3 weeks. We'll deliberate at the end of proceedings today
Okay,
and have a ruling today.
okay.
Thank you
all
very
right.
much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, sir.
1616 East Oliver Street.
Hold on one second here. Only one to speak at a time. Is your name Mr. Lawrence?
No.
Which one are you?
Okay, what case are you, sir?
For theirs, a next door neighbor.
Okay,
They're in opposition.
Oh.
okay.
We're not.
Then if there's something you'd like to enter into the record, I'll certainly take it.
I would.
Okay. Well, state your name for the
Sure.
record.
It's Bart Amadeo, 1423 Bank Street, and this is Bonnie McGee at the same address.
Okay, I apologize, I didn't realize you were
No,
with the same case.
That's okay. I have three points, which I would like to share with you. And I'm sorry for my,
They
If-
complain
let me mention to you
property.
that in the absence of the applicant showing the basis for the extension request, which they weren't able to do, we are restricted in granting that request. So if this is in support of an opposition, that you don't want their request for extension granted, I think you're 99.9% there. And I say that because you're about to make several points.
so
Go ahead, speak.
my point is, all the problems that we have
Yes, sir.
based on the liquor store that they have in that location.
Okay.
They are between, and basically it's only 3 points. Okay, if you look at at what's written there, I made copies for everybody,
Okay.
all right? Points are, they are in the middle. They are in the center of Caris Home, in the pathway of Caris Home. Beans and bread. And also, Perkins Homes, okay? And us as well. We are opposite corner of South Spring Street, okay? We have the property, it's number one, the property damage issue.
Interrupt you. Do you understand why we're here?
Yeah, they have three.
Please
Do you
wait.
understand why they have requested a hardship?
Yeah,
to be
three
able to
buildings.
Sell alcohol. In order to do that,
They have-
they have to meet 3 criteria that Mr. Baumgartner read on the
Okay.
record.
They
And
haven't
what
met
we've
them.
just established here is that they didn't meet any of them,
They
which
didn't meet
means
any?
their hardship is going to be denied.
Well, that's fine.
Okay?
Okay, well then my point is mute.
Okay.
Okay.
But I just wanted, I didn't know how it ended up.
Well, you're here,
so-
and I want to give you an opportunity to be heard, but to the extent it's superfluous or moot, then we can move forward. You've submitted their information for the record? Okay, so that's part of the record now.
Thank
If
you.
there's any changes, will we get notified, or?
I don't,
If you signed it on the sign-in sheet,
I
yes.
did.
there you
Yes.
go.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
1642 North Wolf Street? I'm sorry, pardon me. They were with this last case. 1616 East Oliver Street. Herman Lawrence Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, welcome, sir.
Thank you. For the record, Herman Lawrence Jr. on behalf of Jaffe Packaged Goods.
Hold on for a second. Folks, could you kindly move to the outside of the doors and continue conversation? Apologies, go ahead.
No, not at all. For the record, Herman Lawrence Jr. on behalf of Jaffe Packaged Goods and Groceries, owner-operator John Faulkner.
Okay.
Mr. Faulkner to my right. We are respectfully requesting relief for Jaffe and for Mr. Faulkner pursuant to, just a second, 18701B3, which I believe speaks of a lease that was entered into before April 1st, 2012, and has the remaining term in excess of 10 years. Mr. Faulkner did acquire the property in April of 2007. I brought copies of the land record for the board to take a look at.
Okay, would you like to submit that? for the-
Absolutely.
For the record?
On behalf of Jaffe, yeah.
Okay, and this evidences his acquisition date?
Yeah, yes, it does. The transferee, transferor is
McLean Corporation.
McLean Corp., who's the actual mortgage holder on the property. Mr. Faulkner actually does have a mortgage held by the previous owner. It's essentially a lease-to-own kind of deal. It's a 20-year term, and there is talk of a renegotiation because of, or extending the term out due to monies owed. But in any event, that was the original arrangement between the entity and Mr. Faulkner.
So that lease expires in 2027?
Yes.
presently?
Yes, currently, yes. And I believe he is. It's a great question. We don't. We have endeavored to acquire one. What I do have are copies of the lease, the payment, the statements, the monthly statements, and the schedule, the payment schedule, which evidences the amount owed, the current amount owed, as well as, again, the term of the agreement between.
Is your client the property owner or
He-
the leaseor?
He's the lessee. Yeah, he's the lessee. It's essentially seller financing.
Okay.
So, and typically in seller financing, we know that the seller would maintain ownership until that term is met. But in this one, they actually did record a deed in his name. So, but there is evidence of a payment schedule that extends for the next decade or so, and also evidences the current amount owed, which is roughly $60,000 of a $90,000 agreement between the parties. So that's where he stands currently. So
It's
not a lease. It's
Mortgage is what you're saying?
it's a mortgage, but it's the functional equivalent, I guess, is because.
Are you able to get an affidavit from the landlord?
Certainly. I'd ask that, if possible, that the board would hold its decision under review for approximately 30 days to allow us an extension of time to get that from the landlord.
I think that would, for me, seeing the affidavit from
Sure.
the landlord that defines the term.
Sure.
And that this was basically a rent-to-own
Sure.
situation.
Sure.
Would put you well safely in that category.
Sure, absolutely,
My opinion.
absolutely. Yeah, we're able to do that?
Mhm.
Yep. Now, does it require that we postpone here or just request additional information?
I would say just request additional information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Since the hearing has begun, it would functionally be postponed, requesting additional information. When that information is received by our office, we can then put it back on the docket for a very short review and to confirm that document with the board.
Okay. Does that sound fair?
Sounds more than fair.
That was a request to hold for 30 days?
Yeah, 30 days.
Yeah, that's for the record, so. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lawrence.
Thank you. You all have a wonderful afternoon.
1642 North Wolf, no? Okay. Let me just call that case again. 1642 North Wolf Street, Solomon Asfar. That is a no-show, failure to appear. Next case, 3000 Windsor Avenue, Chang Sun Park. All right. Welcome. Can you state your names for the record, please?
Chang Sun Park.
Okay.
And then my name is Kathy Ann, and I am the daughter and representing of the applicant.
Okay.
The Ann.
Yeah, Ann as an A-N.
All right. And we, of course, are here for the hardship extension.
Yes, of
And you've
course.
heard the preamble from Mr. Baumgartner with regard to the conditions under which an extension can be granted.
Yes.
Can you tell me where you all fall with regard to those?
Yes,
conditions?
to be straightforward, we do not meet any of the conditions that Mr. Baumgartner has read out loud. I have those words ingrained into my brain just from reading it so many times. But I am here to request this extension. I know you explained earlier that it's a very closed parameter for this request, but I do ask that my parents have been in business in Baltimore City for over 10 years, and they have never had any problems, and they are in good standings with the city and the state, and they're also members of the Maryland Society of Koreans. And so we have references from the chairman from the society and the president of the neighborhood association where our store resides, and Lieutenant Stanley, who is a tenured veteran on the Baltimore City Police Department. Our property is not a nuisance. We have just been working really hard, and my parents immigrated here about 20 years ago to give my sister and I the breadth and depth of the opportunities here. And so we just ask you that when granting us this request, rather than a decision, it be more of a giving my family another opportunity and a chance to pursue a different path.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to submit for the record?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I have 5. So I have 5 copies of a reference letter, really, of character from the chairman of the Korean Society of Maryland.
Okay.
That's really all I have today.
Just submit these.
Miss Ann,
Yeah.
there was, Miss Clark was in the room earlier for another appeal. She works for the Baltimore Development Corporation.
Yes.
Regardless of the board's decision here today, that quasi-public-private partnership agency assists businesses. So regardless of the board's decision, I would strongly recommend reaching out to BDC
Yep.
for possible relocation.
Yeah, so we've actually been working with a few of the
Great.
ladies from there, and that's how I'm prepared for this,
Yeah,
actually.
thank you.
But thank you all.
Very well. Thank you for your time.
End of those?
Yes, that's the end of the hardship request. We'll now go back to our regular docket. Calling case 2018-333, 701 South Bond Street. Nate Prettle. For the record, we have requested additional information from Mr. Prettle, and upon receipt of that information, we'll have them back here for deliberations and voting on that particular matter. Sorry. All right. Next case, 2018-455, 606 Hyson Street, Sean Chenworth.
We're in opposition.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like Mr. Chenworth is not in the room or is not responding. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Going to dismiss this appeal?
At the board's discretion.
Okay. Having not seen any appearance by Mr. Chenworth for 2018-455, this appeal is dismissed. Thank you. Next case, 2019-19, 6435 Pulaski Highway, Carolyn Hecker.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, folks. So we have a 2019-19 6435 Pulaski Highway to renovate existing gas service station into a restaurant with drive-through window. And I understand that we are here on the signage portion of this particular request for Dunkin' Donuts franchise?
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports, Mr. Wrench?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department has been working with this particular applicant concerning the signage issue. Planning Department was in support of the approval of the application in general prior to the signage issues coming up. The applicant redesigned some of the signage in order to comply with the new Title 17 sign code portion of the zoning code. And on that basis, the department is supportive of this application.
Very well, thank you. So, Mr. Williams or Ms. Hecker, would you like to walk us through the
Sure, I'm
the
happy
signing
to.
issue?
For the record, Justin Williams, the law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg, joined with Caroline Hecker. Happy to answer any questions. I guess the three changes that planning requested at the last hearing that gave them pause were about the freestanding signage in the package in front of you. I looked at it. I think it's the most recent package. We've changed the issue. One of the issues was you couldn't get a variance to the number of freestanding signs on one lot. They said you could only have one pole sign and one pylon sign and one monument sign. So we've changed one of our two pole signs that was supposed to be along Pulaski Highway to a pylon sign, which is more narrow, basically. I think it's semantically different, not much difference, but at the end of the day, it's a pylon sign for the purposes of the sign code, and that met planning's approval. The other major change was that there can only be one wall sign per lot, which is I think a drastic reduction, but we then therefore made one of the changes to the DD sign over the drive-through canopy to make it so now there's the canopy signs off the wall, and so there's no limit on canopy signage, and that met planning's approval. The other issue was we had miscommunication. There were two other wall signs proposed. One is America Runs on Dunkin', and another Dunkin' Donuts saying, which we've struck based on conversation with planning. So those three changes were sufficient to get planning support.
Very well. In addition to your application, is there anything else you'd like to add for the record?
No, I think you already have the factual basis and the legal standard is in your files. So.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next case being called is 2019-51, 1708 West Rogers Avenue. Alyssa Domzal.
Good afternoon, Alyssa Domzal with the law firm Ballard Spar on behalf of Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital, just 1708 West Rogers Avenue, appeal 2019-51.
Okay. We have this request to erect a 303 square foot monument sign facing JFX.
That's right.
You want to swear these witnesses in?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Do you have any staff reports?
Yes, we have a letter from Councilman Schleifer and the Mount Washington Improvement Association in support of the request for the signs.
Planning Department would like to note that this applicant has worked with the department on the redesign of the original proposal. The department is fully supportive of the sign as it is now designed and to be placed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Domzal, can you tell us about your project?
All right, we are here today to request relief in the form of two variances for height and area of a monument sign in an H district. With me today is Sheldon Stein, who's the president and CEO of the hospital. This appeal is really about much more than a sign. It's a matter of critical importance to the hospital, and it was important to Mr. Stein to come here and explain to you a bit about the hospital and about the planned sign. Mr. Stein?
Thank you. As she said, I'm Sheldon Stein, the president and CEO of Mount Washington. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
So our hospital has been in operation for nearly 100 years. And during the course of that time, similar to other hospitals in the country, our outpatient business has skyrocketed. We have a wonderful hospital in a wonderful part of the neighborhood, but very difficult to find. So this sign is extremely important to help families coming off the JFX, get to the exit, get to the hospital in time to meet their appointment. I think we've all could imagine or been with screaming children in the back seat who aren't feeling well, and it's distracting. It's very easy to miss that turn, and when you do miss the turn and you miss your appointment, you miss time with the physician, you have to make another appointment, so it becomes an enormous hardship for our families. So, unless there's any questions, I thank you for your time. I'll turn
Any questions from the board?
it back over to...
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So when we began working on this project, as Mr. French mentioned, after on the redesign, we really wanted to take design very seriously, and we wanted to hire more than just a sign fabricator, but really a designer who would be able to work with us and work with the community and get a design that everyone was happy with. So we came to Younce Design to do that. And with me today is DJ Thomas of Younce Design, who can first explain a bit about his background and experience with highway signage.
Hi, I'm DJ. I've been in the signage industry for DJ Thomas, I'm sorry. I've been doing signage for over 20 years. I've worked in all sizes and scales, from suburban, urban, mixed use, entertainment, hospitality, everything. And so I have a strong knowledge about how large signs need to be in order to function properly and to work with the site and be the right scale for the location.
Mr. Thomas, the by right sign regulations here permit a sign that is 6 feet in height and 100 square feet in area. Would that sign work in this location?
No, it would be much too small.
Can you explain why?
It's the width, the distance of the sign from the highway, and the fact that it's off to the side. Then you would have to, you'd only have a second to glance over and read it. You wouldn't be able to keep your eyes on the road. So the regulations for signs parallel to the highway are very different from the regulations for signs off to the side, or that are in front, sorry.
So what are the industry guidelines for this distance, this wide of a roadway, for that lettering size?
I measured this on a Google map, and so it's pretty accurate. It's probably within 5 feet. The sign is about 125 feet from the highway, and the highway is 4 lanes across, so that requires or recommends a 33-inch letter.
But that would be, what is our lettering height on this sign?
Ours presently is 18.
So how do we get there? How do we get to the 18-inch height?
Well, we started by doing what we felt looks good in that location and felt right with the size, but we felt 18 inches, 30 inches, 33 inches would be way too big. So we were tasked with kind of finding the smallest that this sign could be and still function properly. So looking at the fact that we were at a 45-degree angle to the highway, we kind of split that 33 in half, and we ended with a number that was about 18 inches right where we felt functioned properly.
Great. That's all I have. If there's any more questions for Mr. Thomas.
I have no questions. Any questions from the board? No.
Great.
Very good.
So I do want to speak a moment about the board's authority to grant these variances. I know that's been sort of, sign variances have been sort of an active point of discussion in the Pulaski Highway case, which we've been following. Under 5301, there are sort of 3 mentions of signage factors that may limit the board's authority. These are maximum quantity of signs, location requirements of signs, and types of signs allowed within a zoning district. And none of that are really at issue in this case at all. We're only talking about height and area, which is a classic bulk variance that is well within the board's authority. So whatever 5301 happens to limit as currently drafted in the board's authority, it's not at issue in this case. I want to note that, as evidenced by the 2 letters of support, we've been working very carefully with the community. It was very important to everyone to find a sign design that worked for the community in terms of community character, as well as lighting and safety and all those factors. And we're very pleased to have a letter of support from both the Mount Washington Improvement Association and Councilman Schleifer. In conclusion, our property, as you heard from Mr. Stein, really is uniquely situated. It's in a residential neighborhood of Mount Washington. You have to hit that exit just right and make several quick right turns to find the hospital, which creates a real problem for families trying to get their children to their appointments. As you heard from Mr. Thomas, the by right regulations strictly would impose a hardship on the applicant, as it simply wouldn't be safe. The sign height and area that would be permitted would not permit a safely readable sign at that location with the highway speeds that they are. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the board grant these variances.
Very well. Any questions from the board? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is this still, did we consent?
Just 65. Next case will be 2019-65, 2542 Foster Avenue. Adam Corballo.
Mr. Chairman, we also have a request for 2019-69, 3314 Airedale. I believe the applicant is going to be requesting a postponement in this matter. I put that to the chairman's, if the chairman would like to hear this case first, and then we can hear that postponement request after that.
Very well, thank you. Okay, so 2019-65, 2542 Foster Avenue, Mr. Carvalho. This is a request to construct third floor addition and a rear parking garage with curb cut?
Correct.
Okay. To swear the witness?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, we do.
Do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application.
And there are two members who had signed, or two persons from the community that signed it against this one. I believe that they had a conversation with Mr. Carballo out in the hallway. If they're still here, they're welcome to come up. But Mr. Carballo can also address their concerns as well.
They wanted to see what our plans were. We had a discussion with them, showed them the drawings, and explained to them the context of what we were requesting, and they seemed to be satisfied. And
okay, very well.
I believe they've left the building.
All right. Well, tell us about your project, if you would.
The building was formerly used as a church. We have converted to a single family. It's currently under renovation for an interior renovation. The owner has requested a third floor addition, as well as a curb cut for a garage that we would be located in the rear of the property. The existing building is a 100% lot coverage building. Corner lot, there is no alley access, there's no even a pedestrian alley. It's completely landlocked. The parking, the garage that we would be able to provide would allow for 2 vehicles. However, based on the Department of Transportation standards for a minimum parking size, we would have to reduce the overall length of the parking space from 18 feet, which is required, to 17 feet. 17 feet would still support a standard size car or a compact car without issue. And we're requesting that, one, the variance for the size of the parking be granted. In addition, the third floor addition, we are able to provide a 13-foot 6-inch setback from the rear yard. I believe we're required a 15-foot rear yard setback. So we would request relief of that rear yard setback requirement.
All right. Any questions? No. Anything else you want to offer?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cabral. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
What do we got next? Calling case 2019-67, 2832 through 3836 O'Donnell Street, Joshua Roberts.
Morning. Dr. Nika.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Let's take care of one other administrative matter. We have a postponement that we want to call, and that is case number Airedale. Is it Airedale property? 2019-69, 3314 through 3318 Airedale Avenue, Sean Weston.
Yes.
Come on up, sir. And Mr. Weston, we had this request to use premises as a community center with catering, but you'd like to have a postponement today, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And your opposition was here earlier, and you spoke with them, and everybody's in agreement with that?
Yes, we're going to take time to do some communicating and see what we come up with so we can best, find a way to approach this.
Very well, wonderful. We will,
Mr. Chairman, I just want to call this to the board's attention. The property was inspected twice, and there was no public posting on the front of the property. Was the property properly posted?
Yes,
The big
it
sign?
is. Yes, I have roll-down gates.
Okay.
At night. If they came, it might have came like in the middle of the night or something. Other than
Well,
that,
I came twice in the middle of the day, and it wasn't posted.
Which day did you come?
Last Wednesday and last Friday.
Last Wednesday. Well, actually, I was in Disney World.
Well,
last Friday. I do
regardless
have people
of
that
Disney, the
looked at
property
us
has to be posted for 21 days
Yes, but
continuous.
I have people that's supposed to open and close the gate during
Okay.
business hours.
All right. I'm just bringing this to your attention because the property has to be posted for 21 days. So whenever this case comes back, you're going to have to come into the office. We'll reissue a posting notice, and then that notice will have to be up for 21 continuous days, 24 hours a
Sorry, and
day.
again, and what's your name?
Sure. Derek Baumgartner.
I'm sorry?
Derek Baumgartner.
Okay.
So, but anyone in the office can reissue that posting notice. But you're going to have to come back in the office, get that notice reissued to you, and then that posting will have to be up on the property for 21 days, 24 hours a day, up until that next hearing date, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
very well, thank you. I'm sorry, now we'll call 2019-67, 2832 through 3836 O'Donnell Street. Joshua Roberts. Thanks, sir.
Good afternoon. For the record, Justin Williams from the law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. I'm joined by Joshua Roberts and Savannah Sedlock from Arcane Gallery and Tattoo Studio, Inc.
Okay, and so we have this as a request to use first floor, 2836 as tattoo and piercing salon and art gallery. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, do we swear the witnesses, sir?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do we have any staff reports for this property?
Planning Department reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Williams, floor is yours.
Mr. Chair, with your permission, we'll proceed by way of proffer.
Very well.
Save the board's time. I'll walk you through several exhibits. This should be a fairly simple case. This is a conditional use request to use the premises as a body art modification or body art establishment, as the zoning code describes it. I think the art gallery is allowed by right in the C1 zoning district. I put in your files a copy of the zoning map for the property showing it's in C1, and it's in this Canton area near the Donald Square landmark and close to let's see, the real traditional like commercial area of Canton. There's an aerial photo as well showing the positioning and the street view photo. The premises for the tax lot is shared by Zena's Day Spa and Salon, and another portion to the right is also owned by Zena and her husband. And the picture shown there is used by Canton Classic Cuts, and this would be what the applicant would is proposing to replace. About the background of Arcane Gallery and Tattoo Studio, they currently have a facility in the Dundalk neighborhood in the county, looking to relocate into the city and bring their services there. They have a philosophy about community-based art and arts as far as tattooing, but also art as far as graphic arts. So the art gallery component that's requested is to be able to show art on the walls and sell it to the people, the patrons and people who walk by and visit the area. There's a floor plan in the file and was submitted with this application showing the premises. There's a foyer in the front that leads upstairs to apartments that they won't control, but the studio for piercing and tattooing is in the back. The hours of operation are proposed to be Tuesday through Saturday, noon to around 8. There might be later hours until no later than 10 on Friday and Saturday evening. For your reference, tattoo facilities are regulated by the city and the health department regulations, so they need to get licensed annually, and they cannot do any tattooing of minors, even with a parent's permission, so that won't be an issue here. So, we've met with the Canton Community Association Board, and they raised no objection. Individually, they supported it, most of them supported it, or had no objection. They just didn't want to take a position without having, I guess, canvass the rest of the community. What they were trying to brainstorm what might be an issue to the community, and they thought maybe the signage, so I've included in the exhibit the logo that would be fairly non-intrusive. In our opinion, it would basically be the same dimension as the Canton Classic Cuts sign. They'll plan to employ about 10 employees and bring jobs to the community. There will always be at least one male, one female employee working at all times, security cameras for patron safety. The applicants are here to answer any questions you have. I have in the exhibit or the outline legal standards the board is supposed to consider. Included also a Facebook exhibit. In case there were issues about community outreach, one of the members of the community raised an issue about the tattoo issue, but many members of the community are fully in support and they recognize most people have tattoos nowadays, and it's relatively normal. I don't yet, but maybe one day.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board? Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, sir? Very well. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your time. All right, the next case we have is 2019-70, 5922 Cross Country Boulevard. Judith Levitan.
Afternoon.
Okay, how are you, ma'am?
Good, thank God. How are you?
Good. And we have this as a request to use portion of home as a 15-child daycare center. Is that correct? All right. Could you swear the witness?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth,
I affirm.
the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Voice up during the hearing.
Sure.
Okay, do we have any staff reports for 2970?
Yes, thank you.
1970.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this particular property on Cross Country Boulevard is not a street corner property. It does not have a suitable location for drop-off or pickup of children on the site itself. And because of that concern, the department is recommending that approval of this application, if granted, be subject to the condition that the applicant contact the Parking Authority of Baltimore City concerning possible establishment of a passenger loading zone in front of the premises, which would then provide a place for parents to drop off and pick up children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Is that condition acceptable to you?
I've already reached out. I mean, just for the record, I only got that paperwork on Friday, which I thought was a little bit close to my hearing, but I do have a friend which just went through this process, and she advised me to do that beforehand. I was in touch with the parking authority. They came out to the property. They've measured. They already marked on the street where the loading zone will be. They have no problem doing it. As soon as we're licensed, then they can actually put it in. Until we're licensed, they have no authority to put it in.
Thank you. Good.
And so you're seeking use again for no more than 15 children?
Correct. It was approximately 15 children. The reason that the word approximately was there, we would like to eventually push it up to 18, so I don't want that to come as a surprise to you, but I've been informed that I may have to come back here to change it by 3 children. It was just dependent on what the fire regulations would allow us to do.
Ma'am, would you like to amend your application to include 15 to 20 children?
Yes, please.
If the board so desires to, we can amend that application up to 20 children.
Okay. I think we do that so we can save the applicant some time.
Yep. That'd be amazing. Thank you.
20.
What else can you tell us about your project then?
I made those site plans. I'm a qualified civil engineer, and as a qualified civil engineer in South Africa, I determined that my passion was education. And as the only civil engineer in the Southern Hemisphere which had commercial diving qualifications, I decided to leave that career path and go into education. And I'm finishing, after maybe 12 years in education now, I'm just finishing my master's in special education. And I believe that not only Maryland, but the whole of the United States requires and needs more licensed daycares, that children can be safe and in the care of not only under safety regulations, but also under education guidelines. Our country, unfortunately, sees children as things which need to be babysat. And I feel in the first 5 fundamental years of a child's life is the most core fundamental skills that a child can learn. And I'd like to contribute to our country in helping our children at that age develop those skills early in life.
Wonderful. Any additional questions? Great. Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
Case number 2019-71, 520 through 532 Caroline Street. Ms. Hecker?
Opposition?
Okay, go ahead. Come on up. We'll get you all sworn in at the same time. By the way, this gentleman, have you had an opportunity to speak with him? He had some
No, I wasn't
opposition.
aware that there was any opposition to this.
Did you sign in, sir, today?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
What's your name? Your name, sir?
I missed that, I apologize.
Okay. Could you step to the podium for a second and state your name?
My name is Nicholas Holbrook.
Nicholas Holbrook?
Correct.
How do you spell Holbrook?
Holbrook.
Mr. Chairman, I may like to request a few minutes to speak with Mr. Holbrook outside, since this is the first that we've
Absolutely.
become aware that there may be
Absolutely.
an
We'll,
issue.
we'll move on, and if you just give the high sign, and we'll call you back when
Okay, perfect.
we're ready.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Going to move on to case number 2019-72, 2423 through 2425 Reister Sound Road. Eleanor Williams, Travis Wallace.
That guy was scary.
Oh,
Good afternoon, Eleanor Williams.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
On behalf of the Entrepreneur Golden Ring.
And I'm Janella Jennings, also representing the Golden Room.
Jamela,
Janella, Janella.
last name?
Jennings -ADL.
I'm sorry,
L.
Yes,
and who are you representing?
the Baltimore Golden Room,
The Entrepreneur
Entrepreneur.
Golden Ring.
Okay, and we have this as a request to use the first floor for sales of prepackaged groceries and snowballs and party equipment rental and office with accessory storage. Is that accurate?
Correct, yes.
All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this is a situation in which the particular portion of the use described as snowballs, traditionally, of course, has been a takeaway business in Baltimore, usually out of a window on the side of a building, or in some cases, a little shed erected specifically for the purpose, and in some cases, a table in front of a house on the sidewalk. So that said, the department is concerned that all business, servicing, processing, and storage uses must be located inside the building. And the department recommends that approval of this application be subject to the condition, therefore, that all business, servicing, processing, and storage related to the approved uses is located only within the existing building. Thank you.
Are those conditions acceptable to you?
We can make it that way.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Been sworn?
I don't think so.
No.
Go ahead and swear them. I
I'm sorry.
apologize.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You said,
The intent was to have a window, that they can come up to the window to purchase these snowballs. Okay, so
and you understand that in this district, that is,
it has to be inside. We can make it work that way,
okay.
to be in violation, to be in accordance with the city of Baltimore.
Okay.
And I do have two letters.
Sure.
I'd like to present.
And what are these letters, ma'am?
Community Association.
The letters in support?
Yes.
Okay, we have a letter from Mount Hope Baptist Church from the Reverend Dr. H. Donald Bates, dated April 6, 2019, effectively offering his support for the project that you're
Correct.
seeking. And also a letter of support.
Mario
Chang?
Yes, he owns the business on the corner of Gwynns Falls and Ricerstown Road. It's a liquor store.
Okay, and they're also offering their support of this particular business?
Yes, and the president of the Mondawmin Association, Ms. Almond Cooper, was not able to attend. She was going to, but her husband passed, so therefore I didn't, out of respect did not.
Understood. And so, again, just looking at the request, I know planning has reviewed this and stated its condition. So you're going to have basically separate businesses inside this particular
Correct.
facility?
Yes.
Okay. How will the businesses be separated inside?
As you walk in the door, there's a section to the right, there's a section to the left, and there's a hallway, and then there's open space that is divided. We've also made it a community room, like if you wanted to have a baby shower or community meetings. We have tables and chairs that we will set up if if anyone wanted to have a meeting as far as the community, which they're happy to have one there in the area. So we have offered to our space for that purpose. We also rent tables and chairs and moon bounces so people are able to come and rent from us. So we have it laid out so that it is all separate.
Okay. Any additional questions?
I don't have any questions.
None?
No.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add for the record?
No, come support us.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Let's see. What did I do with 2019?
That was. Well, no, there was, what happened with Madeira?
There was opposition and then it was consent as
Heard it
well.
That we did consent.
Yeah, there was opposition originally, then
Second
they
consent.
agreed.
Got it.
It's put back on consent.
All right. We will then move to 2019-81, 2327 Linden Avenue. Adam Corballo. And we have this as a request to continue use as 3 dwelling units, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Could you swear the parties, Mr.?
Can you raise your right hands, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Do we have staff reports for 2019-81, 2327 Linden Avenue?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that according to the records available to it, the property was last authorized for use as a row house dwelling, which is a single-family dwelling, which is a permitted use in the R7 district. However, in the R7 district, conversion of a single-family dwelling to multifamily dwelling containing 2 or 3 or more units requires an ordinance from the mayor and city council. And on that basis, the department is recommending disapproval of the application because the zoning code does not authorize this board to approve conversion of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling in the R7 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
And Mr. Cavallo, if you could tell us about your project in relation to what Mr. French has stated with regard to those.
Well, the property is a middle-of-group row house. It had been previously utilized as a multifamily property.
Sorry, the what?
It was previously utilized as a multifamily property.
Pictures or
I have,
metered?
I have digital pictures.
Excuse me?
I have digital pictures.
Sir, we got to step to the podium and state your name.
My apologies. My apologies. My name is Travis Rogers. This is a new process for me. I have digital pictures, if that is acceptable, with the new meters that were put in as late as 2017.
The board can certainly review digital pictures, but just as a best practice, moving forward, we can't accept those images like into evidence. So it can inform the board's decision, but it can't be included as the evidence in this case.
Yes, sir.
yeah, and I guess, Mr. Rogers purchased this property recently, and it was, basically as a completed 3-unit building. There are some things, he's proposing to do an interior renovation, alter, some kitchen layouts, some bathroom layouts, et cetera. But it historically has been a multifamily. I can't speak to what the last CO was on this building, but it certainly was being utilized. It's also surrounded by other like properties that are multi-unit on this specific block.
State your name, sir.
My name is Andre Hinton. I'm the project manager
Okay.
and retired.
Last name again?
Hinton, Hinton.
Okay.
Actually, looking at the scope of the building, the work that's already done, majority of the inspections for that building were already completed when Mr. Rogers bought the property, and it was set up, and we went in there and saw it was set up as a 3-unit. But there were stickers and everything, a lot of things. Some didn't have final inspection, but most of them had final inspections in there also.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Baumgartner, what is it we're required to?
Sure. So in looking at the permit history for this property, I mean, like many properties in Baltimore City, it's a very old property, and there's no easily accessible kind of record history. There are no current use and occupancy permits fully issued for the property. The city parcel sheet indicates that at one point in history, it was authorized for 3 dwelling units, although its current designation is as a single-family dwelling. There was a vacant building notice issued, looks like in 2015, which probably caused the city system to revert it back to single-family status. That's a guess on my part, but it's often that a vacant building notice is issued, which used to revert all residential properties back to single family. That no longer is the case. But the city parcel sheet does indicate, at least at some point, it was authorized for 3 dwelling units. If the property has not been continuously operated since 1971 as 3 dwelling units, and there's no evidence to indicate that, it would not be the continuation of non-conforming use. So the board would essentially be viewing this as if it were a new 3 dwelling unit building in a zoning district in which multifamily dwellings are permitted by right. It would be really helpful if they could dig up a permit from 1940, 1960, 1980 at some point in time to indicate that prior 3 dwelling unit. Again, all we have is a single line on a parcel sheet showing 3 dwelling units. There's no date, there's nothing else attached to that. So the board can take that evidence into consideration and any other evidence that the applicant might have about, as board member Strachan had indicated, meters, entrances, stairways, kitchens, bathrooms, things like that, that would give the board an indication that it was structurally used and structurally built as a 3 dwelling unit structure.
Yeah, I mean, I've provided drawings which show the existing conditions versus proposed conditions. The common area hallway, there are suite, or apartment entry doors off that common area hallway and stairwell. I don't have any photographs to enter into the record, but I do have, drawings that indicate.
Does each unit have 1 kitchen?
Correct. Yes. Every unit has its own kitchen.
And every unit has its own separate bathroom, like they're not connected?
Correct. Yeah. It's not set up like a boarding house or anything. It's actually set up as a individual apartment units.
Okay. And can you describe the access to the building itself from the outside, and then any access in the interior to the different units? You had alluded to that down a hallway, but can you expand on that a little bit?
So to just elaborate, there is an existing exterior door that leads into a vestibule. That vestibule has a suite entry door to the first apartment, which occupies the first floor. You sort of continue down the hallway. The hallway is separated from that first unit. There's a staircase that goes up to the second floor. There's a suite entry, or a unit 2 door off of that main hallway and main stairwell. Go up to the 3rd floor, and again, you find the same condition. There's an entry door to the 3rd floor unit, apartment number 3.
So when you went in the first time, it was clear there were 3 separate units. Each unit had an existing kitchen and its own bathroom and its own entrance.
Own entrance, own utility closet, own furnace, well, at least hook up for the furnace. The furnace is actually stolen. Yes. The kitchens are fitted out, but the cabinets have not been installed at this stage, or at least the stage that he purchased it. But it's very clear where the utility line comes in, where the oven hookup is, where the faucet for the kitchen sink is hooked up, where the outlets would go.
Where the kitchen was.
Where the kitchen, well, this now, as Mr. Hinton mentioned, this building was actually under reconstruction or renovation during, I guess, the 2012 to 2016.
17.
Yeah.
It was under renovation.
And that previous owner stopped construction or renovation. Mr. Rogers purchased the property.
And it
But-
sat on the market for a year.
In my evaluation, looking at it, I didn't see any structural changes or anything that would hint to me that, less sort of drywall and paint work by the previous owner. I didn't see anything that would lend itself to a full restructuring. I didn't see any evidence of taking it from a single family to a multifamily. It appeared to me that it was always a multifamily, or at least it has been since recent memory.
And you've been in the business for approximately how long?
20 years.
40 years. As inspector.
So in that case, the case is before the board for a lot area variance, and just so that the board is aware, the lot area required for 3 dwelling units would be 3,300 square feet, so 3,300 square feet. The existing lot area is 2,200 square feet. So it's a fairly sizable variance, but not out of the scope of other variances that the board has granted. It would require, as the planning department has suggested, a fairly sizable variance, but it is broken up into floors, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. There is also a basement level that is only accessible from the rear. We intend on sort of incorporating that basement level with the first floor, so that there would be a interior communication staircase between the 2 levels.
But otherwise, it's kind of a standard first floor apartment, second floor apartment, or third floor apartment.
Correct.
With the combined basement, okay.
Correct. There is, it also bears mentioning that there is a rear fire escape on the building, which connects all 3 floors.
And it looks like these are incredibly deep lots. They're 150 feet
They're
deep.
very deep, yeah.
And for Baltimore City, that is...
Right. And obviously, with a fire escape on the rear of the building, you generally do not see that on a single-family house.
Salient fact. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You know. Go back. Okay, you're going to recall the case of 2019-71, 520 through 532 Caroline Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Welcome back.
Thank you. The gentleman who was here in opposition, just for the record, has left. He's a tenant in the adjacent property, and he just wanted some information about what was going on with the project. We addressed his concerns, and he is no longer here, so.
Very well. We can evidence by his absence that he's no longer in opposition.
I'm handing out some folders with some exhibits that I'd like to walk through in some detail once we get started here. For the record, Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin, Greenberg. On behalf of the applicant, I'm joined by my colleague, Justin Williams. We also have with us Rachel Klein and Edan Zamarit, who are from the development team, and Bob Rosenfeld, our project engineer.
Excellent. And this is a request to raise the structure and construct a mixed-use building?
Yes.
31 dwelling units with retail space on the ground floor?
That's correct.
Right. Did we swear these folks? No?
I don't think so.
Let's go ahead and swear them, and then we'll get staff reports if we have them.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, and nothing but the truth?
And do we have staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application. This particular property is located within the Fells Point Historic District, and therefore, what is proposed also requires approval from the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. This property has also received Site Plan Review Committee approval in February of this year. The department is therefore recommending that approval of this application, if granted, be subject to the condition that the proposed residential mixed-use structure is completed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation and with the approved site plan. Thank you.
Ms. Hecker, are those conditions acceptable to your client?
They are, and in fact, earlier this afternoon, we got historic approval from CHAP. So
Excellent. Wonderful.
we're well on our way.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
All right, with your permission, I'll proceed by way of a proffer. As I said, I've handed out a folder with a handful of exhibits that we'll walk through. This is a great project. I love this project because it's for an apartment building called the Caroline, located at 520 South Caroline Street. And who else could be their attorney but me, right?
Your work is complete.
That's right. So in the file of exhibits that I've handed out, you'll see there's an aerial photo showing the site. This is the site of the old Tutti Gusti ice cream factory. That is it right there. Tutti Frutti, excuse me. Sorry, Tutti Frutti ice cream factory. It's this property right in the middle here. It's adjacent to the Fleet and Eden garage. It's a city parking garage. And there's a building on Fleet Street, which, as I had mentioned earlier, one of the tenants in that building had been present here earlier, and his concerns have been addressed. So we don't need to worry about that. So the property is zoned to IMU. There's a copy of the zoning map in the file, as well as a copy of the floodplain map. It is located in the floodplain as well. The property is also located just south of the Perkins Homes project, which is a $1 billion project on 200 acres that's hopefully about to get started finally after, I think, several false starts. But this whole area really is going to see a lot of redevelopment, hopefully in the not too distant future. The existing building, interestingly, was built about 1.5 feet over the property line. And we are concurrently with this in the process of doing a quiet title action through the Circuit Court for Baltimore City to confirm title to that 1.5 foot strip where the existing structure encroaches over the property line. We expect that will be resolved hopefully within the next 6 months or so. It's a classic case of adverse possession where the existing building was built in the 50s. It's been there since then openly and notoriously. It's like right out of law school.
Law school problems.
Exactly. It's fantastic. Yes. You don't think about this stuff happening in real life, but here we are. So in any event, this application is premised on us formally acquiring title to that additional strip located just over the existing property line. As Mr. French mentioned, the property is in the CHAP district. We have gone through the CHAP review. There's a letter in the file confirming the CHAP approval of the demolition of the existing structure, which was approved in the fall. We also have approval of the schematic design and the final design as of today for the new building. The site plan is also in the file. What you'll see is that we are proposing a multifamily building with first floor retail. There are 31 dwelling units. They consist of 2 studio units, 20 one-bedroom units, and 9 two-bedroom units. There's also about 2,000 square feet of first floor retail space in the building. We have secured an agreement with the parking authority for use of 31 parking spaces in the Fleet and Eden garage, which is located just across the alley from the property. And there's a copy of that agreement in the file as well. And that covers all of the residential parking that would be required. The retail parking, the number of spaces will be determined based on who those users are and what the specific parking requirement is. But we think for the retail users, it's likely to be street parking anyway. Folks are not likely to have any difficulty finding parking on the street. We've met with the Douglas District Neighborhood Association. There's a letter of support from them in the file as well. We also did meet with the Fells Point Residents Association, which voted unanimously in support of the application, but because this is slightly outside of their technical boundaries, they wanted to defer to Douglas District in terms of the letter of support. The specific variances that we're requesting are for the height of the building to permit a height of 63 feet in lieu of 60 feet, which would be permitted. This, is really due to the fact that we're in the floodplain. We have to boost the building up a little bit higher. We've got to get our mechanical equipment and everything out of the floodplain. Again, CHAP has approved the height and massing of the building, and they're comfortable with the 63-foot height. The density that we're requesting is 31 units. 26 units would be permitted by right. It's about a 15% variance, and that allows reasonably sized units within the height and massing of the building that's proposed. And then finally, for parking, because all of our parking is going to be provided off-site through this agreement in the Fleet and Eden garage, we technically do need a parking variance to provide 0 spaces on our site. In the file that I've handed out, there's an outline that goes through the legal standards that are necessary to approve the variance. I'm happy to walk through those if you'd like, but otherwise I would just proffer them for the board's consideration. And we're certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And Ms. Hecker, this property is located in the Chesapeake Bay critical area?
It is, and in fact, we have received approval from the Critical Area Commission today, in fact, for that. So
thank you.
This morning. Hot off the presses.
Terrific. Sounds like everything's here. The one question I was going to have was about parking, but obviously you have the parking agreement, so.
We do.
That covers it. Anything else from anyone? All right, very good. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Next case to be called is 2019-82, 1215 East Fort Avenue. Applicant being Diamondback Brewing Company, LLC.
For the record, Melvin J. Kanensky representing the applicant in this case.
All right. And this is a request to add live entertainment to existing restaurant with outdoor dining. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Could you swear the witness, please?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do we have staff reports?
What address are we on? Different piece of paper. Okay. We have 2 letters of support. From Porter Street Apartments. Diamondback Brewery is located next to our Porter Street apartment building. Since they opened in 2016, they have been very responsible and conscientious neighbors. We are confident that the live entertainment aspect will be a welcome addition to our community. We have an identical letter from McHenry Row indicating that they welcome the addition, incorporating live entertainment for them to continue to grow theirs and other businesses. And then there's planning.
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Very good.
In addition to that, they've just recently got a letter from the Locust Point Civic Association today. Actually, don't knock you around there. And it's indicated they have been there for the last 2 or 3 years, and they've been a good neighbor and tenant, and have been an asset to that area with their brewing and outdoor seating.
All right. Just for the record, the letter indicates from the Locust Point Civic Association dated April 8, 2019, that the board, LPCA board, has met with the owners and support live entertainment with certain conditions. You're familiar with the conditions laid out in this letter?
I am, yes.
State your name and address for the record.
Francis Smith.
And you're in agreement with these conditions?
We are.
Okay, and those conditions include live entertainment will be 1 to 2 weekends per month during special events. All live entertainment will be restricted to Fridays through Sundays and will end before 9:30 p.m.
Yes.
The decibel level of music will be held within 40 to 80 decibels as established by the Health Department and Zoning Board. And Diamondback Brewing will take readings to confirm they are maintaining that level. And Diamondback Brewing will not hire outside promotion companies to promote events that include live entertainment. And that the LPCA board understands that Diamondback Brewing has contacted management of the neighboring Porter Street apartments and have the apartment complex's support of these conditions as well. Great. Okay, that's in the record.
Good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. These guys are prepared today.
Yeah.
Next case is 2019-83, 2413 through 2421 Eastern Avenue. Frank Scarfield?
I'm not Mr. Scarfield. I happen to be Dave Dieselhorse.
All right.
I am the architect of record of the project. Spelling it out for you, D-I-E.
First name is what?
David.
Last name?
Dieselhorse, D-I-E-S-S-E-L-H-O-R-S-T.
Okay. And this is a request to increase from 28 dwelling units to 30 dwelling units, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Department of Planning notes that this property was renovated recently, in the last few years, using historic tax credits, it being in the Canton National Register Historic District. The department has no objection to the application, particularly because there are no exterior alterations of the existing historic structure being requested at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Swear him in real fast. Raise your right hand.
Oops.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, sir, can you tell us about the project?
Just some history for you all. This project was first approved back in 2003 from BZMA. None of you were on that board. And Dave Tanner was Mr. Baumgartner's predecessor. We asked for a modification to the 2003 document back last fall, and BZMA requested that, or invited us, I'll put it more appropriately, invited us to reapply due to the age of the previous BZMA approval. As was said by Martin, there's absolutely no change to the outside or inside of this building. What actually happened was back in 2003, there were 30 units designed. There were 30 parking spaces designed. But 2 of the units were designated, one as a rental office and one as a building engineer's office. The idea was that once we got to 100% or 90 sustainable occupancy, we could remove those 2 things to adjacent properties of Mr. Scarfield's and use that staff, and then turn these back into rental units. Well, we are now almost 3 years at 90% plus occupancy, and are basically asking that we be able to do this now. The 2 variances that are in the planning department document, yes, we would have to ask for those, and we hereby request those. One deals with the percentage, the ratio of going down type of thing, which is really no different than what it was back in 2003. And then the other one, we would have to have 2 additional off-street parking spaces. We physically cannot do that anymore. During the construction, wonderful BG&E threw upon us the requirement to have a transformer within the building, so we lost 2 parking spaces.
When did that occur, sir?
That happened in 2013.
Okay.
So, and so every square foot of this building is every square foot of the site. The first floor is parking, and there's no space for any additional off-street parking on that site. We have plenty around the building, plenty across Eastern Avenue type of things. So ultimately, basically, we're just saying, we are respectfully requesting the 2 variances to be approved, and I would appreciate reapproval of something that the board did, 16 years ago?
Any questions from the board? No? Very well, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Next case, 2019-84, 40 North Streeper Street, Isaac Evans. Good afternoon. Mr. Evans?
I'm George Cheney, and I'm here on behalf of Crab Matters and Isaac Evans.
George
Cheney, C-H-A-I-N-E-Y.
Okay. And we have this as a request to use first floor as a restaurant. Is that correct?
Well, yes, I guess that's been changed a little bit.
Tell me what you think it is.
Well, it was actually a request to use portion of the first floor as a restaurant/neighborhood commercial project. Basically, this business started from Instagram, and so we deliver food.
Okay, now hold on, I'm gonna get you sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it started with Instagram, got 3,500 followers. People.
Let me ask you to hang on one more time and ask for staff reports if we have any on this.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. We have 3 letters from residents at 37 North Streeper Street, 24 North Streeper Street, and 18 North Elwood Avenue. They essentially write that they oppose the appeal to open a carryout at 40 North Streeper Street. Though Mr. Evans stated in his application that he is opening a restaurant, his actual proposed use should be defined by the BMZA as a carryout, as his floor plan does not include any restaurant seating. And Mr. Evans states in his application, quote, We are not a restaurant where customers have table seating, end quote. This is by definition a carryout, which is not an approvable use in the R8 zoning district. Also, the property does not have a private parking area and street parking is very limited. Thus, I believe that most of the customers will have to park illegally to get their orders. Finally, I am concerned about the accumulation of trash at the property. The streets are already crowded and rodent infested, and I fear that the additional food refuse will exacerbate the current issue. Currently, there are no receptacles that allow for proper storage and rubbish at 40 North Streeper Street. I'm planning.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted specifically the description contained in the original application, used the first floor of the premises as a commercial kitchen preparing food orders for delivery and as a carry-out food shop. This property is zoned residentially, and in that particular residential zone, neighborhood commercial establishments are allowed, and neighborhood commercial establishments are defined to include restaurants, but do not include carry-out food shops. The definition of the carry-out food shop in the zoning code is a business establishment whose principal business is the sale of ready-to-consume food and beverages for off-premises consumption. There is therefore no distinction made in that definition between ready-to-consume food picked up by a customer and ready-to-consume food delivered to a customer. On the basis of that technicality, basically, the department is recommending approval of a restaurant as a type of neighborhood commercial establishment at this location, but is recommending disapproval of the portion of the application relating to a carry-out food shop and delivery and pickup orders of trays of prepared food, because carry-out food shops are a prohibited use in the R8 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
And that's fine with us.
What does that mean?
What I mean is that, in other words, you know, what I just heard and what somebody called and told us was that the carry-out portion isn't possible through the regulations as they exist. And so we're fine with that. We're fine with the restatement as an approval as a restaurant, even though the drawings don't have any tables. You know, it's fine, and we can work with that easily and continue to, you know, do business and employ people in Baltimore City.
But will you be adding tables and servers and those types of things, like to the business model?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there enough space in the building to put, so how many tables, how many servers will?
There would be about 3 tables, you know, so folks could consume, 3 on each side. And previously it was approved for, 60?
Okay. So part of the
60-seat restaurant, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. See, before it was licensed as a tavern, then it was vacant for 2 years. That's why we had to come before you again.
So as part of the definition of restaurant versus carryout, the predominant source of revenue for the business would have to be from seated patrons, from diners going to the establishment.
Right.
So most restaurants have a, you know, you can order food to go, but that's a very small portion of their revenue stream. So in order to be approved under this application, you would have to be able to show that on a surprise inspection by the city comptroller, that the majority of money coming in was from seated diners.
Oh, absolutely.
And you'd be required to show W-2s from employees who were servers and those types of things, including tipped employees and all that kind of stuff from the comptroller's office. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else you'd like to tell us about the project?
Mr. Evans also owns an adult medical daycare facility, so kind of moving over with that.
I'm sorry, can you state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Amanda Gollar, Gollar. I work with Mr. Evans and a few businesses. But so doing as well as payroll, that kind of stuff, that shouldn't be any issue to have staff, servers, and take it that route versus the carry out would be no issue.
Okay. So Mr. Evans is prepared to go forward as a restaurant with
Yes.
seated patrons?
I think somebody called either from zoning or planning.
Planning,
last,
yes, and spoke
Thursday
with
night.
him.
We just never got the letter.
Well, do you recognize that's a big difference from
Oh, yeah.
planning a commercial
I
kitchen
do.
to?
But we have enough of a split in terms of business that's already generated, so that's not a problem. We simply have to, you know, disallow the business that would pick up, and simply deal with the business get 3 extra grams, and let them know they can come in and pick it up and sit down and eat. And the food's good enough, you know, they'll love it.
Okay.
You guys will come and visit us.
All right. Any questions from the board?
None for me.
All right, very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day.
Take care, sir.
All right.
The last case that we're calling is 2019-87, 818 White Lock. Mr. Darren Scott.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Scott. Okay.
Yes.
This is a request to increase from 3 dwelling units to 4 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's get you sworn in, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, first we have a letter from the Reservoir Hill Improvement Council Incorporated. We note that the lot size for the property is 1,568 square feet. Based on that size, the property would only be allowed 2 dwelling units. 4 dwelling units would require 3,000 square feet. Reservoir Hill is already densely populated. To increase its density by overturning the city's own zoning rules makes little sense. With an additional dwelling unit comes additional demands for parking, which also have not been addressed. We urge the BMZA to uphold the city's own rules when there's no compelling reason to disregard them, and several compelling reasons not to do so. Does planning have a report?
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this is in some ways an unusual property. The original end-of-row house had been converted into 3 dwelling units, and what was originally the entire rear yard of the property had been used to construct a 2-story commercial addition to the property, which apparently has no internal connection to the original row house building, according to the plans that were submitted. Therefore, the rear portion of this property, the rear building, has functioned essentially independently of the multifamily structure that is the original house on the property, excuse me. Therefore, there is complete lot coverage, which is one of the variances that's going to be required for the board to approve this application. However, that rear building was built for commercial purposes, and the applicant basically is proposing to convert that commercial space into a 4th dwelling unit on this site. Given the fact that it is a residentially zoned property, the department has no objection to the application and notes that even though the amount and proportion of the lot area variance is very large, as proposed, it is reflective of the fact that this is a large multifamily dwelling structure covering the lot entirely, and conversion of the 2-story rear addition to the original dwelling structure would complete the process of returning this property to its original residential-only use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. So tell us about your project, sir.
As the gentleman said, the rear of the property is going to be converted to a residential. The 4th apartment it has a new kitchen. It has bathrooms, two bathrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1.5 bath, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath. There are means of egress. The first door, 2 rescue windows provided as per UL 263, and the apartment has all new paint, flooring coverings, all work to be per code.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Has this work already been done?
It's done, yes. It's actually, when I purchased the building, it was basically a shell, and I just finished it. But I purchased it with a partner about 10 years ago.
Okay.
You said 10 years ago?
Yes, back in 2010 when it was purchased.
The
under
work to
Scottish.
convert it, that rear commercial, previously commercial property, the work to convert it into residential, that was all permitted work? So you got,
Yes, that was all done. Yes.
so the building permits preceded the use and occupancy permit?
Yes.
Okay. It's always interesting when an applicant, and this is to no fault of your own, but when an applicant files for a building permit for a use that is not yet established, and the permits office issues the permit for the work, and then the use comes later, which obviously can be the cart before the horse. But
Understood. Thank you. Very. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No, just hope that everything goes well, and I didn't change anything. I just finished what was there already. So
Very good. Thank you so much, Mr. Scott.
thank you.
Okay. Are we now off the record?
Yes.
Okay.